What's up, folks? This is Living the Lines, a fivefold media production. Today we have Elisa Smith and Erin Bonnie in the studio. They're songwriters and musicians, both with solo projects of their own, but today they're in Nashville from Boston, and they're working on fivefold media on shooting some content. They're doing the Playlisted podcast later this evening, and finishing off with a writer's round at Bobby's Idle Hour. We've had a fun photo shoot. Tell us a little bit about what we're doing here today.
Yeah, so the photo shoot that we did earlier today was for a cover that she and I are releasing that we recorded down here with Caleb Gilbreath out of Battery Life Studios over in Franklin. I think that's where his new studio is.
Right.
And we love Loretta Lynn. We've always loved Loretta Lynn. She's a total queen. And so we did a cover of her song called Don't Come Home A-Drinkin', but we changed the lyrics a little bit.
A little bit.
You want to talk about it?
Oh, well, we were having a rehearsal at my house for some show or another, and I think I just made a joke about, well, I'll come home drinking. Like, you can't come home drinking, but you know what, I can.
Right.
And so we sort of swapped the point of view. And so instead of Loretta's man going out and coming back home, a little bit too many into it with his buds,
Right.
we are the ones coming home to our spouses being like...
So did y'all change the song, or is it true to...
It's very true to how it originally sounded. And when we were in the studio, I kept telling the band, I was like, exactly how it sounds on the record, which around here, they're like, okay, let's go, you know. But yeah, so we kept everything, for all intents and purposes, the same, but we just changed the lyrics a little bit here and there. So it's, what's the first verse? Well, I thought you'd be waiting up when I came home last night. I'd been out with all the girls and I ended up half tight.
Okay, so it's y'all are doing it, covering it, just
Yeah.
just changing
Just
it for
changing
your
it a little bit.
perspective. Yeah.
Liquor and love, they sure do mix.
They sure do mix.
Is this going to be a
I
single?
won't leave that
y'all are
bottle
dropping?
behind.
It's a single, right?
Yeah,
Just
it's a single.
When is that planning on coming out?
It's being mixed right now, so I'm hoping that we can release it like late spring.
Okay.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of just, where are y'all from originally?
I grew up in Montana,
Okay.
a little town called Arlee. Real blip on the map. Drive through it on the way to Glacier. Really beautiful place. But then I moved to Boston about 14 years ago.
Okay.
And I've been living in New England since.
How'd you end up out there?
I moved out to go to Berklee College of Music to study songwriting.
Right, and you're a fiddle player. That's your primary instrument?
Yes, fiddle's my primary instrument. Yeah.
Grew up playing bluegrass? And
Yeah, with my dad. We had a family band.
yeah, I love all that stuff. We had Uncle Josh Graves, his grandson, in here yesterday.
Okay.
He kind of created bluegrass dobro with Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs.
Very cool.
I love all that old stuff.
That's very cool.
And you're Eliza's from Illinois originally?
I am, yeah. So I grew up in a really small town called Mokina, Illinois, which technically, I'm technically from Mokina, Illinois, but where I actually grew up is not part of any town.
Where is that in relation to like Springfield?
Springfield, so it's a bit north of Springfield.
Okay.
Yeah, so Springfield's like in the center of the state, and I grew up about like an hour and a half north of Springfield. And so yeah, tiny little town in Illinois, and then I also moved to Boston to go to Berklee to study music business and music production. But funnily enough, we didn't meet when we were students. We didn't meet until after I graduated. And you had graduated.
I had graduated as well.
Right. Yeah, and then I just fell in love with New England. I loved it there. I loved that it was close to the mountains. It was close to the ocean. I love to do things outdoors. I love to hike and fish and do all those things. Right. And it's hard to do that in Illinois.
So you're a country singer that's actually a country girl when it comes down to it.
I am a country girl. I also really love like putting on all the, I love putting on all the glitz and glam, but I also
y'all
really
showed
love...
up with a wardrobe for the photo shoot.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been coming down to Nashville? Are y'all kind of regulars down here? Or?
Yeah, so my husband's from here, and then he also ended up going to New England, to Boston to go to college, and we met in college and fell in love. But so even before I decided I wanted to really do music, I was coming down here with him, and then so I've been coming down to Nashville for golly, a long time, at least 10 years, about 10 years. Yeah.
And this is where you do all your recording at?
Yeah, this is where I do all my recording. A lot of friends that live down here, and like co-writing, and I mean the whole
It's
gamut, the whole thing. Yeah.
A way of life for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What are some of the contrasting differences that you like from being down south versus where y'all are back home? Is there anything noticeably that's, I haven't spent a ton of time up north, so it's interesting for me to get the perspective of maybe like the differences. Do y'all have a thriving music scene where y'all are at?
That's a good question.
It's interesting because Boston is a town that really attracts a lot of people who come in and go out.
Yeah, it's very transient.
So it's really hard to
Just in for a short amount of time on
Yeah.
the way to somewhere else?
exactly. So there's a lot of people like moving through. So it is kind of tough to find your music community. It is there, but you have to look for a really long time.
Yeah, you do.
And find your special people.
That's true. You gotta find your people.
It's kind of the same thing
Yes.
in Nashville. I hear people say this is a 10-year town, and it's not so much that it takes 10 years to get to where you need to be. It's more 10 years to find your people,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
your clique, your people that you work with. I've listened to you guys on another podcast, and you talk about you have a specific producer that you enjoy working with above anybody else, just because he gets what you want to do. It takes a long time for people to find things like that.
It does. It does. Especially for producers too. It's such an intimate relationship when you're working with a producer. 'Cause we co-produce everything, but especially as like because my primary instrument is voice. Especially as a vocalist, you know, it's very vulnerable to find someone that understands your vision and what you want to do. And yeah, like I think, you know, there's still things I think that, like on this next album that I'm working on right now called Perfume, which I'm very excited about. I think I want to try some new and different things that might be outside of the box a little bit. So I'm excited about that. But, you know, I think that as long as you can find someone that's willing to kind of take that ride with you and that journey with you, then you've found your people.
Yeah, you really do have to be comfortable, because if you go in somewhere and it's a sterile environment, you know, it can get pretty monotonous quick.
Yeah, very.
What are some of your guys' earliest influences? Like, you know, if you grew up playing bluegrass, there's probably a time where you kind of outgrow that and you wanted to go your own direction in music, just with things you were listening to, maybe even before you started playing.
I mean, I'm not really sure that's true. I pretty much grew up on Del McCurry. Del McCurry was my first concert. I still love Del McCurry.
And you always loved it?
Like, I've always loved Del McCurry, McCurry Brothers. But I think it's in particular the songs that they cut, because they don't write a lot of stuff. They cut a lot of stuff.
Right.
But they're great storytellers, and they always choose songs with a story, and that's always what's captivated me. Plus just the drive, the high lonesome sound.
Yeah.
I've always been into that. But you know, where I break is like, I will also listen to Beyonce.
Yeah,
I really like SZA. Like Shabuzi is so good.
Yeah.
You know, like I listen to a lot more different kinds of music
Right.
than say my father, who really is just like trad bluegrass plus a little bit of Billy Strings. You know, like a sprinkling, like a little dash.
It's always amazing to me how Billy Strings has he's took flat picking guitar and he's crossed genre lines. There's people from all walks of life who are like, we like that guy.
Well, Chris Stapleton has done the same thing. It's like people will be like, I
Yeah.
don't like country music, but then they hear Chris Stapleton and they're like, who is that?
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, that started a whole moment in time, but I kind of feel like Chris Stapleton was maybe even a little bit more palatable, because people have been into R&B, soul type
Totally.
music for generations, but typically speaking, bluegrass inspired music is for a small genre of people. What did you kind of grow up listening to?
I grew up listening to classic rock through and through. So a lot of Fleetwood Mac, a lot of Eric Clapton, a lot of Fleetwood Mac, a lot of Stones, Beatles. I'm also one of 4 daughters, and I'm the youngest, and my sisters are all older than me, so I was influenced a lot by what they were listening to. Like the first time I heard the Beatles was because my eldest sister brought it home, and I was like, what is this? And so I think, you know, I listened to a lot of that. My grandmother loved early country. So like Lulu Bell and Scotty, the Carter family, stuff that was like in like the 30s through the 50s.
Right.
And then my mother she's so funny because I'm the most musical out of the 4 daughters. And so she's like, she always says, well, I sang to you the most. That's why you're the most musical. But she would sing to me like a lot of Woody Guthrie and a lot of folk songs,
Okay.
a lot of Peter, Paul and Mary. So I never got like the bluegrass country, but I got a lot of like classic rock. And I still maintain that if you just add fiddle to ZZ Top, you have a country band. Like,
A country band nowadays, yeah.
Totally.
People talk about the rock scene being dead, and they're like, no, it's thriving, and well, you just got to go to Nashville
you gotta
to
go to
find
Nashville
it.
for it.
You know?
That's right. Yeah, so that's what I really love, and that's what I grew up listening to. A lot of Santana too. One of my first concerts was Santana, before he did all those weird duets.
Right.
So he was doing like Black Magic Woman and like all those really, really great killer songs from the 70s. So that's like what I grew up listening to. And so, I love like driving guitars, and I love just like pure rock and roll. That's like
me too.
my favorite. But then I also really love country. So
Right.
here I am.
And nowadays, it's just so blended. Like, there's no genre lines. You can kind of do whatever you want. I kind of heard you talk about when you do your full band stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it is more driving and more on the rock and roll side of things.
Yeah, it
But
is.
when y'all are playing duos together, it's a acoustic guitar and a fiddle combo, and y'all sing amazing harmonies together.
Thank you.
You were critiquing your reverb on one of your live performances, like, you guys don't need it. You
I know,
got
it's very
it.
sweet.
You guys remember a moment when you're like, this is what we're going to do? Like, even as individuals, as writers, and, before you came together, or is just, have you always been consumed in it? Maybe you, since you've been doing it, since you were very young, it's just always been what you've done?
Well, sort of. Like, when I was very young, I told my dad I wanted to play the fiddle, and then my mom and dad signed me up for classical violin lessons, and I did that until I was 18, so I was kind of over it.
You were burnt out on it by
Yeah,
then?
because I am very thankful for the technical education.
Mom and Dad,
that I
I'm very
got
thankful.
on my instrument, and I had a wonderful teacher, and I love her so much. But classical music is not for me. The music's not for me. The culture's not for me. So I was kind of burnt out. I quit for like a year, and then I met a handsome mandolin player with beautiful blue eyes. Go figure.
Right.
And we started a band together, and I started writing songs, and that was when it became
Right.
the best thing ever.
And that's when you were in your late teens, early 20s?
Yeah, like 1920. Yeah.
And you were in Boston by then?
No, I was still in Montana. I was going to the University of Montana. I was studying resource conservation, forestry, wilderness studies, and playing in a band called Baba Ganoush.
Okay.
We were so hippie. We were so granola. But it was the best. It was the best. And I was writing all the material for the band. And
Fronting it? You were fronting the band too?
yeah, fronting the band. Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of places would y'all have been playing around there? Just
Oh,
dive
bars.
Just dive bar
Bars.
scene?
Yes.
Missoula's got a pretty like
Missoula
healthy
has
scene.
Yeah, it has a robust scene for sure, and a lot of music supporters. Like people will show up for you, which is awesome.
That's been my experience the times I've been up north. It seems to be what I do and the projects that I've been a part of going up there, it seems to be received well up there just because they're so kind of starved. I heard you talk about maybe there's a resurgence of a country scene in Boston
Yeah.
semi-recently.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so we've been doing this in Boston for quite some time. And when we first started playing together, there was like nothing. There was like one kind of country bar in town near Fenway. And Fenway at the time too was like run down, super like very
little
run down.
sketch.
Yeah, super sketchy.
Yeah.
And then it's been wild, like over the past 10 years, just to see this huge resurgence of country lovers. I think, I always joke around because Boston has like a very healthy drinking scene. And I feel like country
Those
has
white
also
people
a
love
very,
to drink.
yeah, and country has a very healthy drinking scene. So I feel like they
Because
finally
they're all
found it.
Irish, right?
Yeah.
Most of them up there are Irish. And that's
yeah.
where country music comes from,
Yeah.
So it's in those people's DNA.
It is. It's totally in their roots, And so, and I also think like,
They don't know why they like it, but internally they're like, okay, this speaks to me.
Yeah, and I think like as country has kind of like morphed over the last 10 years too in terms of not being so honky tonk. I mean, I love the honky tonk stuff.
Yeah.
But, for like your Shaboozis and like, those people that are making country more accessible to a broader audience, which I think is awesome. I think more and more people are just kind of being drawn to it because I think as country goes, like the players are still incredible and the stories are still incredible,
Yeah.
regardless of the
music,
genre
yeah.
blending that some people like, some people don't. Like I said, I'm a fan. I think that like the music still is truly really good and still rings very true and very authentic. And I think that that's why people are drawn to it. So, I mean, there's quite a scene. I mean, like people are selling out Fenway like multiple nights in a row. Like Zach Brown has done that multiple
Couple times.
years of multiple nights in a row. So it's cool to see. And like Zach Bryan, he just sold out like that huge last summer. He sold out where did he play? Foxborough, which is huge. It's where the Pats play. Yeah. And he sold it out like 3 nights in a row.
Miranda Lambert's coming in August too.
Yeah, and I'm sure she's going to sell it out too. So it's really cool.
There's really never been a better time to be in music in general, but a country artist, because there are no lines. You can do whatever, you know, and there's so many opportunities now. Do you have like a familiar routine for writing, or do you just kind of how they come, or do you set aside specific time to be like, I'm going to write, or you just kind of wait for ideas?
I have 2 small children, so it's hard for me to set aside time to write, though I do try. But I think, you know, for me, usually I'll hear the hook first, and I write from the title a lot. So like we were in the car earlier today, and what did you say? You said something, and I was like, there's a song in there somewhere.
I don't remember. I said so much.
I know.
I kind of feel like I do the same thing. I'm constantly listening for something that just resonates.
Yeah.
It could be a line or something. It may not turn into a title, but you just kind of jot that down and then you kind of flesh it out from there.
Yeah.
You do a ton of writing yourself.
Yes.
And she's gave you credit, I heard, that you're the better writer.
She is better.
I know she keeps saying that, but I keep telling her not to.
You're certainly more prolific, for sure.
I heard you were doing a 30 song a day or a
31,
day.
yeah. Song a day in
Are
January.
you done with that?
I'm
Or you
done.
still-
I did it.
Yeah.
31 strong.
You did
I was
it. I know
listening
you
to you
did
talk about your donut daddy and stuff.
Oh
so.
my God.
I was an inspiration for that one.
Yeah. She sent me that account, and I was like, well, I have some material for tomorrow.
Right. And you guys don't write together. You spend all this time playing all these shows and stuff, but y'all don't co-write.
This comes up a lot. No, we don't. We tried it once, and it was a horrible, horrible experience.
Bad. We wrote a bad song. We didn't even finish the song, but it was bad.
There can be weird contradictions like that.
Yeah.
When you know, things can work so well in some aspects and not at all in others.
Yeah.
Do you guys co-write at all?
No. We're going to try
with
again.
other people, though?
We are going to
Oh, with other people.
Yes.
Yes.
So y'all are co-writing. It just doesn't work between the two of y'all.
Yeah.
It hasn't yet.
Not yet.
Right.
We're going to try it again. But yeah, you co-write a lot.
I do. I co-write a lot. I love co-writing.
Do you have a project that you're working on right now?
I have a couple projects I'm working on. One is actually a collaborative project with my buddy Benny Brosh. We've been co-writing for a little over a year, and we're working on an EP. And so we're working on our next single. And then I'm also putting together my next full length.
Okay.
Which I'm
And
very
are you
excited about.
are you recording that down here? Or?
No, I'm going to record it at my home studio in Boston. And I think too, I want to travel to Montana, back home, and do some recording there as well with some of the people I grew up playing music with.
Yeah, you do a lot of your own producing and mixing and
Recently, yes.
Recently, yeah.
Yes, recently, the last 2 years.
Have you had fun getting into that side
Yes.
of it? Yeah.
Yes, I feel very empowered.
You want control, don't you?
I do, and I want to spend less money.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I really would like to
completely
spend less money.
There is that.
Understand. Do you guys, are y'all looking for good songs, or do you only interested in songs that you have a stake in the writer's portion of it? If somebody had a great song, would you be open to, do you cut songs that you have no writing
I'm
on?
terrible at it. I'm really terrible at it. Like, it's hard for me. I think for me, it's hard for me to imbue a song if I didn't write it.
Right.
And a lot of my songs are not autobiographical, right? Like, I write songs about a lot of things that don't necessarily happen in my own life, but I don't really shop for songs. I think because I am a songwriter. So I think, if somebody took an idea to me, maybe, but I mean, I have a lot of people that come up to me and ask me to look at things and ask me to cut things, and my answer is usually no.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But-
totally understand.
Yeah.
How long have you been releasing music?
So my first EP I released in 2018, and I recorded that down here with a guy named Johnny Duke, who's super talented, really talented guitar player. That was the first time that I released music. I've been singing and playing music ever since I was itty bitty. I think I put my first band together when I was like 6. We were called
Wonderful.
the Dizzies, and I made T-shirts and everything.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was with my friend Laura Fattori. I can't remember her name. But yeah, Laura Fattori. We started a band called the Dizzies, and our little logo was like a little tornado because I grew up in Tornado Alley. So yeah. But anyway, but yeah, releasing 2018, and then I released my first full-length album in 2022 called Baptized by Fire, and then I just released a new EP last year, and then hoping to start releasing my next full-length album starting like probably in the fall or maybe like spring of next year.
It becomes addictive. Whenever you get in there and kind of get over the hump, you start to realize what all is possible, and you have this flood of ideas, and things you figure out that you can do.
Yeah.
Do you find that your songs take on kind of a life of their own as you bring them into the studio and they become a full production, or do you kind of go in knowing the way you kind of want things to sound?
That's a good question. The production process is really tricky for me because usually I'll go in having a sense of like, okay, like this is kind of the vibe that I'm going for. Let's see what comes out most of the time. And then what'll happen is like, we'll record it and I'll be like, this is great. And then we'll get to like the editing and the mixing and I'm like, oh God, this is terrible. I totally made a mistake in the studio. What was I thinking? And then it'll get done and I'm like, this is great. So it's like this real like emotional roller coaster. And that happens with like everything, every single song that I do. Like there's none can hide. That's just that's the trajectory that it takes. But I think, I hold myself to a really high standard and I am a little bit of a perfectionist, which I'm trying to let go of because that's, perfection is the killer of art,
Right.
So I think I'm really trying to work through that. And that's something I really admire about you is that you're just like create, go, push, doesn't matter what it is. I think that's a better way to function as an artist. But what about you? What about you?
I forget the question.
Well, just
going in
your
the studio.
songs, like when you take them and
I have a pretty fleshed out idea of what they're going to be. I go in, I hit it. Yeah.
You're just ready to get it done.
I am. I really, really am. Like, let's go.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you describe your sound?
My sound? I call myself an Americana folk rock mama. Very informed by American roots traditions, bluegrass, country, old time folk, and, good old rock and roll.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that any changes with your sound? Like, do you find yourself kind of zeroing more in on what you want, or do you find yourself sometimes in kind of unfamiliar territory? And you're like, oh, I didn't know I had this in me.
Oh, I'm always in uncharted waters.
Okay. You live in uncharted waters.
I live in uncharted waters.
Okay.
I think especially
Absolutely.
with that Song a Day challenge, like you were like exploring all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, I really, what I love about song is just like the possibility of what could be.
Right.
And I'm just like so excited about creativity, just period. And I love music and I love songs so much. So yeah,
It's always been fascinating to me when you write one. Sometimes they come quick and you're like, this didn't exist 2 hours ago and now it does. And then even if it's yours, like, you were talking about being a perfectionist in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you kind of have to learn as an artist is nobody really enjoys listening to themselves. Most of the time you're not going to make something that you're going to drive around and like jam out to. And you have to it's not for you. You're making it for the fans or whatever.
Mm-hmm. There are a couple of mine though that I love listening to.
Right. Well, that's good. Those are the good
I'm like,
ones.
okay, these are the good ones.
What kind of places are y'all playing back home? Is it more the dive bar scene or?
But yeah, lots of bars. We've played a lot of festivals, a lot of farm things at farms, events.
yeah, the trustees stuff.
Yeah, which is super fun. The last gig that we played was a last minute one, and it was this like, it was great. It was a lovely gig, but it was like way outside our normal wheelhouse. It was this like very crunchy granola like cafe kind of place
with imported beer.
Yeah, it was a lovely place, and the people were so lovely, and it was outside of it was just a different venue for us. But it was great, and like people, like the audience was so captive, and it was great. But yeah, I mean, we'll play wherever, anywhere. Yeah.
Have y'all had a chance to get out on the road much, or y'all mostly staying close to your base camp up there?
We do kind of like a hub and spoke approach. So like we've gone all throughout New England. And you know, I've played in Nashville. But I think, you know, again, because she's got a kid, I've got 2 kids.
Right.
So it's a bit tricky to go out on the road. But I think once the kids are a little older,
Yeah.
I'd love
hitting
to.
the road.
We've talked about scheduling a tour in like Montana.
We have to do Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Have to.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be a blast.
Yeah.
The traveling can be tough, but getting in those hidden corners of the country, that's where you find some of your most diehard fans. The people don't, you know, I've lived in Nashville for 20-something years, and I kind of take it for granted that you go other places and they don't have live music, or the caliber of local musicians is just way lower.
Yeah.
You know, we're kind of in a different day and time. You were talking about one of your biggest influences, Loretta Lynn. We're kind of in a different day and time than when she was doing things. But has your experience led you to feel like the playing field for men and women these days is maybe still a little bit of that good old boy club? Or do you feel like it's more of a level playing field?
Not at all.
At all?
No. I mean, yeah, I mean, no. Like in Boston, it's still really hard. And, you know, there's people who have been doing it shorter than we have, less amount of time that, you know, I'm not trying to like rag on anybody, but, you know, like we're pretty good, you know, like we're pretty talented players
Damn good.
and we've been doing it for a while. And, you know, there's people that, like I said, just don't have to work nearly as hard as we do to get way better gigs.
Right.
And that's here and that's back home. And so it's tricky. And I remember Trisha Yearwood told me, like, you have to work so much harder. You have to work so much harder to get even 1 ounce. And she's right.
Yeah, you have to make yourself undeniable.
She's totally right. Yeah. You know,
Loretta kind of used a little bit of that to her advantage. Before the year 2000, there was roughly only about 5 male country songs that were banned. Loretta had more than that just herself. Y'all are doing the cover of Don't Come Home a Drinking. That song ruffled some feathers, but when she put out The Peel, that really kind of blew things up. And she kind of used that to her advantage. You know, I've heard her say that she knew how good she was doing by how many songs she had banned. She'll tell you she had 14 banned, but other people claim it's more closer to 9. Loretta also shaved a few years off of her age in her autobiography, which I love. So, it's you had people like Johnny Cash, who it was okay to shoot a man in Reno just to watch him die
Right.
in 1955. But Loretta couldn't talk about having birth control, you know, or the Dixie Chicks, Goodbye Earl.
I know,
that
yeah.
was banned. That wasn't cool.
yeah.
And
Well,
even-
I mean, the whole thing happened with them
Right,
where they were just totally excommunicated from the country scene for like 20 years.
right. But even Garth Brooks, like, Every Light is Burning in a House Across, I can't remember the name of that.
Thunder Rolls.
Yeah, the Thunder Rolls.
Yeah.
I was drawing a blank. There was a third verse, where he talks about the
That has
woman.
disappeared.
They cut it out
Okay, you cannot find that verse
because
anymore.
it was a woman sticking up for herself. It didn't have anything, like I said.
I keep thinking
Johnny
I'm getting
Cash is-
gaslighted that verse didn't exist. Like I made it up in my
Like it's like the
head.
Mandela
But
effect.
I remember it because I had the OG version of that.
Yeah.
He still
in the
sang it
90s.
live sometimes. But that Johnny, like there's other examples of things that were perfectly fine for male artists. But you kind of have to just accept that that's the way it is and find a way to capitalize on regardless, you know. And that's what I always loved about Loretta. She had a dozen kids and she was, you know, tied down in 1,000 different ways, but she found a way. You know, it's very inspiring.
Yeah, like so one of the first song that I released off of this newest EP called Spirit on the Run, the song itself is called What's One More, and it's a duet with Brad Sample, who's awesome.
Right.
He's super
great.
awesome. He's super good. It got slapped with an explicit lyric thing, which I was shocked because, like, I mean, yeah, I was totally shocked. It's like, it's not a provocative song, but it's about, like, you know, they're having they've been together before, they've had their dalliances.
Right.
he's rolling through town and she's like, what's one more time? Gonna,
Right.
you know, and but like there's nothing like explicitly sexual in the song lyrics themselves.
No.
There's a lot of nuance, but like I was shocked that that got labeled with an explicit lyric thing. And I wonder if like if a guy had sang it, if it would have gotten the same treatment. Who knows?
Definitely not.
Yeah, like I was like,
Definitely
what?
not.
Like,
There's nothing explicit about that song.
yeah.
It was a tougher time when there was program directors and stuff. Now you can kind of, unless you're trying to get on, you know, huge playlists and stuff, you're in control of your own destiny in a certain way.
Yeah.
But those people back then, Loretta and that Hank Thompson song, "The Wild Side of Life," where he talks, "I didn't know God made honky tonk angels." That was fine. But when she done it wasn't Loretta, I can't remember her name right off, but she done kind of a rebuttal to that, and that was not.
It wasn't
cool.
God who made
They
honky
were-
tonk angels?
Yeah, they weren't having that.
Honky-tonk angels.
But the original Hank Thompson, it spent 15 weeks at #1, you know. So
Yeah.
there's been some definite contradictions in a lot of that.
I had 2 songs that have explicit lyric labels, and I wear them like badges of honor.
Of course.
I'm in good company with Laura Lynn, I guess.
What's some of your guys' bucket list places to play? Like, where would be like if you could snap your fingers and be on any stage?
Oh, the Opry.
The Opry.
Oh, mine's Red Rocks.
We were talking
Red
about
Rocks,
that
yeah.
yesterday with Jack, and Red Rocks. The
That would be
Opry was
amazing.
cool, no doubt. To stand in that circle would be prestigious. But I've never been to Red Rocks, but it looks incredible.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a beautiful venue. I think the Opry for me because my grandmother was so close to country music and just
Right.
to stand on that circle. Of course, because of everybody that stood on that circle, but I think because my grandmother saw that circle when she would go to the Opry when she was a young woman with my grandfather and sitting up in the nosebleed section. And, you know, I feel like that's why it would mean a lot to me to be connected to my grandmother in that way. But yeah, I mean, Red Rocks would be also great.
Right. How do you define success?
Oh, good Lord.
What
I
does
don't
that
know.
mean for you?
I don't know.
You don't know. A lot of people have a lot of trouble with that. Do you have an idea what success would mean to you?
Yes. Success for me is I live a life where I make art and I still find time and space and inspiration to do it. Because art is resistance. Nothing is set up to help you do it. And like day by day, if you're just still in the game, like that's a win for me.
Right. It's
That's
tough
right.
finding that healthy home life, you know, work balance with the music. Being a creative person myself, sometimes I find it as much a burden as a blessing to be. Do you guys feel like you find sometimes where you just wish you could just lay it down
Yeah.
and kind of move on?
We talk about that a lot. And like, my husband is a very avid music lover, but he's not a musician because I think one musician is probably enough for our family.
Right.
And he, you know, he sees me and he's like, "Gosh, this like causes you so much like, like angst and like, are you happy doing this?" And I'm like, "No, but yes," and I can't.
It's a
I can't
weird
not do
thing.
it.
It's
Can't
so
not do
hard
it.
to
Really
explain.
hard,
It's so
yeah.
hard to explain.
You hit the nail on the head. That's such a great question, and we talk about that a lot. It's like you wish that you could take. I'm sorry, I don't want to touch my mic. You wish that you could take a break, but you just can't. You can't.
in your
You'd be
bones,
dead.
man.
You'd be dead. You'd
It's
die.
in your blood.
Yeah, you would die.
I heard you talk about Garth Brooks gave you a guitar.
Yeah.
Garth Brooks has a hilarious Loretta Lynn story. Evidently, they were at the White House, and I don't know which candidate or whoever was president at the time, but they were having dinner at the White House, and they brought the food out. And Loretta asked the wait staff, said, "What is this?" It looks like a piece of bread. And they were like, "That's a biscuit." And she said, "Now, honey." And she gave the wait staff instructions to go back to the kitchen
Yeah.
and teach them how to make biscuits. I always thought that was
That's
hilarious.
awesome. That's awesome.
I think that's about it, guys. What do you guys got planned for the near future? Do you got gigs you want to plug, or you got things that are dropping in the next couple of months?
Oh, well, I don't have any hard dates. So,
You got music that's coming out? Any dates for that?
I mean, please go stream my latest release, which came out on my birthday.
Okay.
I produced it. It's called Roger.
Okay.
I'm
All
really
the
proud of it.
platforms?
Yeah, Erin Bonnie.
What's your
Roger.
socials?
At Erin Bonnie Music.
At TikTok, Instagram,
Oh,
everywhere?
I'm not on TikTok.
Okay, we're banning TikTok.
I'm a mother in my late 30s.
You don't have time for TikTok.
Do you know what I'm still on? Facebook.
MySpace?
No. No, but I did grow up on MySpace.
There's a Yahoo chat room that Erin's still on today.
AOL or something.
Yes.
AOL.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up on dial-up, so.
What about you? Y'all are playing together tonight at
We are,
Bobby's.
yes.
Idle Hour.
Yep. And then doing the Plays It podcast, like you said, at the Green Light Bar. So I'm really excited. So I mentioned earlier I'm working on planning my next album called Perfume, which is all about like female stories and strength and a lot of different perspectives of stories that are just not really shared or told, I think, by women a lot. And so I'm launching a Kickstarter for it on March 1st, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be recorded here. All the musicians are going to be from here, and 10% of the proceeds that I raise for it, I'm going to donate to Rosie's Place, which is the first women's shelter in the country, which I'm really excited to give them a portion of what I'm able to raise. Okay. So yeah, you can check that out on Kickstarter on March 1st, which I'm really pumped about.
All right. All the social platforms, Spotify, everywhere.
Yeah. So you can also stream all of my current music, which I have out. It's Elisa Smith Music, Eliza with an S, not a Z, like you said. Yeah, you can stream it everywhere.
All right. Ladies, we've had a blast. We appreciate having y'all down here.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
You'll have to swing back through and check in next time y'all are around.
Absolutely.
For sure.
All right, guys. We all take it easy. Peace.